All right, we're on. This is Kind Regards the show. Essentially what we're doing here is we're just kind of figuring stuff out live on the show. I'm thinking that there's sort of two ways that I can go about this. One is that I want to write, Kind Regards began as sort of an article each week that sort of dealt with various like philosophical, self-helpy sort of issues, like the old philosophy, the kind of philosophy that, is designed to help you live better. And so that's where we started. And I used to write big sort of articles, about 2,000 words. It'd take you a little bit to read. And they'd be a bit, I'd spend all week on them. I'd spend all week writing these things. But then I thought maybe we could do a shorter sort of version of these where, they deal with smaller topics and that they're a bit less, thorough. They have less sort of readings involved and they're a little bit, I guess, simpler and hopefully easier to apply, quicker to write for me. There's the bell, the Pomodoro bell. It means I've finished another 25 minutes. Sorry about that. Hopefully quicker for me to write, which means that they come more from my life as my life is, so that the more direct the articles were becoming, like the more directly in contact with my life they were becoming, the more people sort of enjoyed them and resonated with them. When the articles were totally abstract and they were just about ideas and there was no me, there was no my life in the articles, the feedback that I got was always like, oh, it'd be nice if you were in these, like if it was about your relationship to these ideas. So hopefully by making them a little bit quicker, both in, shorter duration and also I make more of them each week, we'll get a bit more of it'll have more of a relationship to real life, my real life, and therefore everyone's real life. So that's the idea. But there, like I said, there's two ways I'm sort of thinking about going about it. One is to record the whole thing, like improvise the whole thing and sort of just have like a, 5 to 10 minute bit where I sort of grapple with ideas. This is kind of nicked from Johnny Mozza, who I can link in the description or whatever. But he sort of does these videos where he grapples with topics over about 10 minutes and they're relatively, they're quite entertaining. And I appreciate that, like, seeing someone work it out, it can be interesting in and of itself. But then the sort of writer in me, going back to the original Kind Regards, wants to write it out and wants to like get things clear in my head and then produce sort of maybe more edited work that way, where I sort of have a list of things that I want to talk about and maybe even write like a script and how I want to talk about them and then sort of do that, get good takes where I'm happy with, how I explain it or whatever, edit all that together and then put something out. So that's sort of, we've got two methods going on here. And we'll see which one, I guess, prevails, or perhaps they'll both run parallel. But that's kind of the idea. If you're wondering what I'm even going to talk about, I guess me too, I'm writing about 10 sort of ideas for episodes each day. And so, we'll probably get, 3 or 4 a week that all sort of rise to the top of that sort of 70 that I produce, 70 quick ideas. But they're just heaps that, what are they? I'm tempted to like literally read them out and read out my ideas, but I'm a bit scared of that. So they're just about what I'm going through and I guess at heart, they're less about me telling people what it is, like telling people how to do stuff or, what the truth of the matter is. It's not like I've got stuff figured out or worked out. It's me working stuff out. So these are all the problems that I'm dealing with, which is like, like I have a hard time being in cafes and writing or reading in cafes, and yet I'm drawn to these places because I'm living in a van. And so, you want a place other than the van to be in. So you go to a cafe, and then, it's this relationship to place, how does the place that we're in affect us? And then how do we, as a person who decides where they're at most of the time, discern where a good place to be is? What are the preconditions of place and our relationship to place that create good work? Good mental preconditions. Cafes are too loud for me. They have music, usually music that I hate. Usually it stinks. And so, I have to listen to a bunch of people's conversations about like inane stuff, some person complaining about their sister and how their sister always, does this thing. And I have to like have that in my ear while I'm trying to do something else. It's the bad conditions for me. What would the work look like if I was sitting in a park? If I wrote this whole episode, if I wrote 10 ideas sitting in a park, what would that look like? What would the difference between that and cafe work be like? Because straight away my posture, all of my mental sort of posture and my like positioning has changed. I'm more relaxed in a park, and I've got grass on my feet and the sun's out, and I'm seeing people just having a nice time. People don't really talk in parks so much as they walk their dogs and smile at each other, and like everyone's having a nice time in a park, And so like, how does that rub off on you? And let's say you're studying, how to be a, counselor. The one of the only people I know who's still studying is studying to be a counselor. And I think, if you're always doing counseling work in cafes or you're always doing counseling work in the park or in a library or at the beach, if that's the place where you study, it's a whole different thing. Anyways, that's like one idea. It's also, my relationship to, other people, the relationship that I have to work, to different ideas, different concepts like confidence and creativity and things like that. These are all sort of bouncing around at the beginning of a new thing for me. And so, yeah, all of these ideas are sort of bouncing around, and I think by reflecting on them and producing work about them, instead of, thoughts just come up and then they just, they're gone. And they don't leave like an imprint. They seem really, they seem realer than real. They're like more tangible than reality when you're in them. When a thought is like taking you away, when you're lost in it, it's the whole world. It's everything. Excuse me, but as soon as it's gone, like where is it? Like where? It's like a dream. It just evaporates. All thoughts are just gone. More like, I was going to say it's like a stream, but it's worse than that. It's like a waterfall, except it's at the end of the earth. Like it just goes into infinity. It's just gone. And so in the time that I've spent not writing and not producing anything, I get this sense that everything that I've thought has kind of been lost. Like it shows up, and then I go, oh, that's actually quite insightful that, maybe I do think about relationships in that way, like, oh, that's huge. And then it's gone. But by making work and by refining ideas and figuring stuff out and yeah, I engage with the ideas in a different way, in a deeper way, in a more tangible way, and I make sense of them. I make them real, instead of thoughts just being thoughts and just being a dream. When you write down a dream in the morning, it makes it exist, in some sort of, like it pulls it through time into the future, into the sort of present moment, and it can be accessed in the future, by imagination and memory. Together you can kind of piece it back together, or piece something of it back together. And so hopefully the ideas that I talk about, on the show will have a similar sort of lasting value, both for me and then for the audience too. It's one thing to sort of go, oh yeah, maybe I am afraid of what my mom thinks of me. And then it's a whole other thing to hear a person, talk for, 5 or 10 minutes about their relationship with their mother or, whoever, in depth, and really grapple with that. That can take you on a whole other journey. It can be a whole event. A thought is not an event. It's very, very rare that a realization is so potent that it's an event in and of itself. At least to me, at least it's very rare in my life. And so by making the things that I'm thinking about into events for both myself and for the audience, the sweet listeners, hopefully both of us will sort of get more from, from these problems than just the fleeting sort of, oh, there it goes. That was maybe a solution, Instead, we'll have sort of a real event, a real story, a real piece to carry with us, to look back on, to review, to revise, to engage with again, to go, oh, was he saying that or was he saying something else? You can go back, you can listen again, that kind of thing. Yeah, so that's sort of the idea for the show as it stands. This one might be especially rambly, but who knows? Maybe they'll get, way more rambling, way more vague than this. But let's start there, and we'll get to the next episode, which hopefully won't be about the making of the show, and it'll be about sort of a topic. But yeah, we'll kick things off here. Yeah. The future of the show, we'll see what happens. There might be video accompaniments. I think that might be a thing. I might start filming them as well. That's quite attractive. Or also putting footage to them and then uploading them on YouTube, because people seem to like that kind of stuff, and I kind of like that stuff. Also, and living in a van, I'm outside all the time, which is pretty good for filming. I've got like a constant flow of new scenery and new landscapes, so it wouldn't be bad to sort of take advantage of that and make, share that with other people and that kind of thing. Quite lucky in that regard. It's a good excuse to explore all kinds of stuff. Anyways, we'll see what happens. This has been Kind Regards, the show, episode 1. Yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for taking the time. Yeah, I'll see you for the next one.